We're starting to train an Espalier apple today on Pots and Trowels, and that's brought to you with the support of King Seeds and Cobra Garden. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. Well, today we're going to have a look at how you can train apple trees. But before that, just want to remind you that as well as our weekly videos, we also do a podcast. So if you fancy another fix of gardening, you can listen to it through your normal podcast provider. And each week we chat to a guest and we talk all things gardening. So give it a listen. So here we are in the fruit and veg garden here at home. And I love growing fruit trees, apple trees, but we're limited to the amount that we can grow as traditional big trees. So I try to squeeze as many different apples and pears in as possible. And a really easy way to do it is, if you've not got much room, but you've got some beds in the garden, is to create what we call a step over. And this is a step over here. It's just got a very short stem, and then we've got two branches growing out horizontally on which we get the fruit forming on the little fruit spurs. And what we'll do later on in the summer, these tall vertical shoots, we will cut down to a little short stump called a spur, and that's where the fruit will appear next year. So it looks very structural, great way to edge borders, and they don't take up much room. And another way that I'm growing as many trees as I can in the garden is this. These are cordons. These were planted just over a year ago and they've really settled in nicely. These are being grown as a vertical cordon rather than at an angle. We can see we've got quite a bit of fruit on some of them. Because I've got a row here, I'm calling it my fredge, which is a fruit hedge. And in this short space here, I've got 15 different apples and pears. So even in a small space, it's possible to grow quite a lot of fruit. But what I want to do today is show you how you can start to train an Espalier apple. This is where we get them in the tiers. So I'm going to go and do that. I've got it over by the greenhouse, so let's go and have a look at it. So what I'm going to do today is to create, or start to create, an Espalier apple tree. And this method works with pear trees, you can do it with cherries as well. And it's when we get these lovely horizontal tiers and a vertical stem with them going out, and you often see them on walls. They look very decorative and ornamental, but they're still productive. And you can do this if you've got a wall or a fence that you want to put something on it to make it look a little bit better. So you can often buy in a garden centre or nursery at this time of the year pot-grown apple trees that sometimes are a little bit bushy. And if you can do that, sometimes you can adapt one of those to start your Espalier. So what we basically need is a straight stem going up, and then we need some side shoots that at this time of the year, here we are, only the end of June, they're still quite flexible, the new growth, so they would bend down. Now, what I've actually done with this one, I started this off in February. I bought what we call a maiden tree, a 1-year tree with a single stem. A little bit like this, but this is a little bit older, but it gives you the idea. So it was just a single stem in February when it was dormant with no leaf on it. And what I did, I cut it down to about 16 inches from soil level. So I literally got my secateurs and chopped it off, got rid of the top. You've got to be brave to do it. And if you do that, cut it down to about 16 inches, 40 centimetres. Ideally above a bud if you can see one, but don't worry if you can't. But what will happen is then the buds at the top there that are dormant will suddenly become the dominant and active buds, and they will burst into growth in the spring, and you'll get what I've got here. If I just point there, you can probably see, I don't know if Jill can see that, but that is the stem, what was the main stem that was growing up that I cut off there, and then these top 1, 2, 3, 4 shoots have grown from the buds that are there. So that is what is going to be the formation of my Espalier. So if you want to do it this way, you need to buy an apple in the winter, prune it in the spring, and you'll be doing this time next year. So to start the process off, I'm going to use a cane. We need to give it some support. So I'm just going to push that down, trying not to damage any roots too much. And what I'm going to do is tie that to it, because we do need to create a support framework. So I'm just going to use, this stretchy string, and it's ideal for this because it, unlike soft string that rots after about a year, this one will last for several years. But the great thing is it's rubberized and it will stretch as the tree grows. So I'm just going to put that into that position there. And what this will do is it will give me then something to tie this vertical stem to as we continue to train it. So that's put the vertical in, and I'm going to actually just tie that onto that as well at the base. So again, a little bit of this stretchy string, wrap it round like that, just to give it that little bit of support so that we can get a nice shape to that. You just need to then snip that off. So that's now held that nice and securely, the main stem to the cane. So next, what I need to do is to put a horizontal cane in so that when we bend these down, we can tie them to it. So I've got another cane here and I want it to position it again just so that when they are bent down, we've got that nice shape. So I need 3 hands for this. I'm just going to ask Jill if she can operate a camera and just hold that in place like that. So if you can just hold that like that. And again, I'm just going to tie that onto there like that. It's not the easiest thing to do, but that will just hold that into place. And then very carefully, I'm just going to bend this down onto there. So I'm just going to tie that into that position, but don't bend them fast. The secret is to do it gently, and you can usually do this until the wood starts to stiffen up a little bit. So we're just going to cut that one. It will spring back up, but when I put this one down as well and tie that onto that one, it will help to balance it out. So again, we can just tie that one on. Okay, it is always better if you've just got 2 people for this, but so that one onto there like that. So we want it to be fairly tight onto it. So you can see now from the front that we've got the start of our espalier. I will probably put another tie there and another one there, and these growing points will carry on growing. So what I can do now is I don't need these stems here. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm just going to cut it off. I'm not going to take it right back. I'm going to cut it just to a leaf like that, and that will then form a little spur, a fruiting spur in the future. And then I've got one round the back here as well. I'm going to take this one off completely because it's lower than the first tier. So we'll cut that one off. So I've got my first horizontal, I've got my vertical there. I'm going to put one more tie on that just to hold that in place. And then we've got to do another little bit of pruning. So I'm just putting that loose because I may adjust it. So we've got the stem here, and we want eventually more shoots that will grow, and that will then tie down to form our second tier. Might happen this year if they grow well, or it's probably going to be next year. So what I'm going to do, I need to leave about at least 35 centimetres, about 14 inches between. So I'm gauging, if I cut that one about there, just above that, this top shoot here will carry on growing up, and then these little side shoots that are already there will grow out, and we'll have a situation like we've just had down here, and it will all work nicely. And then these little bits on the stem, just shorten them back for now because they're still drawing water up there, and that's it. We can leave that, keep it watered, keep it fed, and at a later date we'll come back to this and we'll start to form that second tier. Well, thank you for watching Pots and Trowels, and the variety, by the way, in case you're wondering, is Laxton Superb, which is a lovely old variety and absolutely delicious. Next week we're out and about on our travels. We're at the Lincolnshire Agricultural Show, so we're going to be catching up with some people there. We'll see you then. Bye.